In the waning years of the 10th century, a Norse saga began to unfold that would forever alter the annals of exploration. It was Bjarni Herjolfsson, sailing from Norway to Greenland to visit his father Herjolfur, who first glimpsed the forested shores of a new land to the west. Whether it was due to a lack of bravery, or he found himself caught in the tempest of fate, he did not set foot upon it, leaving its secrets to the whispers of the Atlantic. Born to Herjolf and Thjorgurdur in Iceland, Bjarni grew up with a yearning for adventure. As a merchant captain based in Norway, he visited his father every summer in Iceland. But it was during one fateful voyage that Bjarni's life took an unexpected turn. In the summer of 986, Bjarni Herjolfsson sailed to Iceland to reunite with his parents, only to discover that his father had joined forces with the legendary Eric the Red in Greenland, where they were establishing a permanent settlement. Determined to find him, Bjarni set sail with his crew on the journey that very few people made before. However, fate intervened. The year was 986, navigation and compass didn't yet exist, and the only way to orientate was by the sun and the stars. Bjarni relied on his rich experience and knowledge of the winds and sea currents like every other Viking sailor in that time, when a violent storm darkened the sky and blew him off course, and he found himself gazing at an unfamiliar land. A place not Greenland where he had set off, but something entirely new. Bjarni's sighting was tantalizing. The land he glimpsed was covered in trees and mountains, unlike the barren Greenland he knew. His crew begged him to explore further, but Bjarni, eager to reunite with his parents, pressed on. He didn't set foot on this new land, leaving its mysteries unsolved. After 4 days of sailing in search of land whose description corresponds to what they have heard about Greenland, the crew finally finds their destination and sails into Herjolfsson, a base on the very southern tip of Cape Farewell established by Bjarni's father Herjolf. Reunited with his family, Bjarni Herjolfsson stayed in Greenland until his father's death. Afterwards, he returned to Norway, but not before he had regaled the settlers with tales of the strange, greener landscape he had seen. In the years that followed his voyage, word spread of the lands to the west he had discovered, sparking great intrigue throughout the Nordic Empire. Around that time, Leif Eriksson, a son of Eric the Red, was a teenager eager for adventure and exploration. Under the influence of his father, a magnate in Greenland, Leif acquired essential management skills and became a skilled shipbuilder and navigator. His mother lived in Iceland with his foster father Turkur, from whom Leif learned valuable knowledge and skills. Turkur, an older male servant who hailed from the German region, taught him how to read and write runes, the Celtic and Russian languages, trade practices, old sagas, plant studies, and the use of weapons. All of these experiences sharpened his diplomatic abilities. In order to become a respected and trustworthy future leader of the settlement that his father established in Greenland. In the year 997 AD, Leif, at the age of 24, was entrusted by his father with the role of captain on his first voyage to Norway, the homeland of his grandfather, to bring gifts to King Olaf I Tryggvason. Upon arriving at the court, King Olaf I Tryggvason was equally thrilled by Leif, given his familiarity with Leif's father Eric the Red. Leif Eriksson held the esteemed position of a royal bodyguard among the retainers in Norway. His sagacity and commanding presence garnered immense respect, particularly from the king himself. It was during this time that King Olaf personally introduced Leif to Christianity and administered his baptism. The king's admiration extended beyond Leif's sailing prowess. He was also captivated by his tales of the verdant and forested lands lying to the west of Greenland. Around the same time, Bjarni left Greenland and embarked on a voyage back to Norway. Upon his return, he conveyed to King Olaf his observations about the land to the west of Greenland, which was marked by thick forests and majestic mountains. This report confirmed Eriksson's claims, and King Olaf's reaction was one of interest and curiosity as he recognized the potential significance of this newfound territory. Little did they know that this crucial discovery would become a pivotal moment in history, marking the first European footsteps on North American soil. Encouraged by the Viking spirit of exploration and a desire to bring prosperity to his people, Leif Eriksson purchases a ship from Bjarni Herjulfsson and hires a crew to return to Greenland. However, he also receives a special task from King Olaf, who commissions him to spread Christianity among its people and far beyond. Upon his return to his homeland, Leif Eriksson found his people in dire need of timber for housing. He didn't hesitate, as he already knew what he had to do. Without wasting any time, he immediately prepared to sail off in search of the land that everyone was so eagerly craving to explore. The year was 1000 AD. Upon Greenland's western coast, Leif Eriksson sailed with purpose, his Viking heart ablaze. 600 miles westward, he discovered a land, its icy embrace adorned with towering glaciers and unyielding rock. They made landfall, yet disappointment clung to the salted air. The land, a colossal slab of stone, offered little promise. Undeterred, Leif bestowed upon it the name Helgeland, Slab Land, or Flat Rock Land, a place now whispered to be Baffin Island. He turned southward, his ship slicing through waves. The shore revealed itself, a canvas of flatness, white beaches, and whispering trees. And so, he christened it as Markland, Woodland, an eastern coast echoing through time as Canada. But winds carried him farther, southeastward, to an island with a mainland beyond. Dew clung to grasses like sweet honey, and Leif knew this was no ordinary land. He raised booths, temporary shelters, but the earth's bounty beckoned him further. So rich was the soil that he vowed to build a grand house for winter's embrace. Salmon, colossal and gleaming, danced in the waters, creatures that dwarfed even the boldest Viking tales. Pastures stretched wide, nourishing their cattle, and forests whispered secrets in rustling leaves. And then Thurker, whom Leif brought with him for his intense knowledge of plants, vanished. The men searched, breaths mingling with the morning mist. When they found him, he babbled in German, his eyes wide with wonder. He had discovered grapes, the sweet jewels of this newfound land. Leif's command echoed across the rugged landscape. Load grapes and timber onto the boat. They settled in for winter, where frost dared not touch the grasses, and day and night danced in harmonious balance. As spring unfurled its green banner, Leif bestowed upon this land a name, Vinland, a realm of wintry pastures, or perhaps a haven for vintners. A lot of meadows in Newfoundland, where echoes of Leif's courage still resonate. In the years following their initial exploration, the Vikings established a few smaller settlements across Vinland, a region of coastal North America. These remnants continue to captivate modern Canada and the world at large. While the Vikings did settle along the shores of North America, they never established a permanent colony or remained in the New World. Upon setting foot on the newly discovered land, which held great allure for them, they soon realized that its long-term prospects were less promising. Despite favorable climatic conditions, abundant wood, fertile pastures, and salmon-rich rivers, the real challenge for these intrepid seafarers lay in the indigenous population. The natives, numerically superior, posed a formidable obstacle, leading the Vikings to recognize that survival in this new land would be precarious. Upon Leif's return to Greenland the following spring, he inherited his father Eric's settlement and assumed the role of chieftain. Although Leif Eriksson remained in Greenland until his death, the settlements in Vinland continued to be inhabited by his people for the next 2 decades. However, frequent raids by indigenous groups, whom the Vikings referred to as Skrælings, eventually led to the abandonment of these Vinland settlements, causing them to fade into obscurity for an entire millennium. In the waning years of the 15th century, a man named Christopher Columbus stood at the precipice of destiny. His life, a tapestry woven with ambition, curiosity, and the relentless pursuit of the unknown, would forever alter the course of history. Christopher Columbus, that intrepid Italian explorer, emerges as a figure both enigmatic and resolute. Born to a wool merchant family, 1451 CE, in the bustling city of Genoa in Italy, Columbus's destiny was woven into the very fabric of the sea. As a young lad, he deftly wove threads alongside his father, mastering the art of weaving. But the siren call of the ocean beckoned him. At the tender age of 14, he stepped aboard a merchant ship that carried exotic goods, tales of distant lands, and the promise of adventure. Once on board, he traded the bustling streets of Genoa for a network of intertwined sea routes across the Mediterranean, Aegean Sea, along the western coasts of Africa and Europe. Yet, Christopher was no ordinary sailor. His insatiable curiosity transformed each voyage into a classroom. He devoured knowledge like a parched traveler at an oasis. As the ports alternated and he encountered new people and cultures, Christopher learned several languages, including Spanish and Portuguese. His interest in astronomy and geography led him to read numerous books on these subjects. He pored over tomes on astronomy, geography, and the mysteries of the world. The tales of Marco Polo, the Silk Road, and the fabled riches of the East fueled his imagination. With each page turned, he charted uncharted territories in his mind. During the 15th century, Portugal emerged as a dominant naval power, largely due to the visionary efforts of Prince Henry Navigator. His influence on maritime exploration and the development of new routes was pivotal in shaping the age of discovery. Under Prince Henry's guidance, Portuguese shipbuilders designed a revolutionary vessel, known as the caravel. These ships were lighter, more maneuverable, and capable of sailing longer distances. As the son of a king, Prince Henry enjoyed significant advantages, including access to substantial funds for maritime endeavors. His vision extended beyond mere exploration. He aimed to expand the Portuguese empire through the acquisition of new territories. With each new discovery, Portugal secured additional lands and resources. The revenue generated from these newly acquired colonies, primarily through taxes, fueled further expeditions. Prince Henry sponsored numerous voyages, each venturing farther down Africa's coast. These explorations were instrumental in mapping out sea routes and understanding ocean currents. Portuguese navigators meticulously studied wind patterns. They perfected the North Atlantic Volta do Mar, a reliable system of trade winds blowing eastward near the equator and westerlies returning in the mid-Atlantic. Leveraging these established routes, Henry's fleet, led by Captain Diego de Silva, reached the Azores in 1427. These islands, approximately 1,000 miles west of Sagres, the westernmost point of the Atlantic known at the time, became a strategic outpost for further exploration. Prince Henry's interest in geography was undoubtedly influenced by his older brother, Prince Pedro. Pedro's travels across Europe exposed him to diverse cultures and ignited a passion for exploration. In 1428, during one of his journeys, Pedro brought back a translated copy of Marco Polo's travels from Italy. This text likely fueled Henry's curiosity and desire to explore beyond known horizons. Both Prince Henry the Navigator and his older brother, Prince Pedro, were opportunists. Their ambitions led them to initiate the colonization of the Azores. Although Prince Henry organized and financed numerous naval explorations, he did not personally embark on these voyages. Instead, he focused on managing the educational and administrative aspects of these operations. Consequently, he missed the opportunity to see the soil of America with his own eyes, much like Bjarni Herjolfsson had done earlier. Prince Henry the Navigator is rightly regarded as the patron of Portuguese exploration and the main initiator of what would later be known as the Age of Discovery. It was an unfortunate shipwreck that brought Columbus under the auspices of the Portuguese court and provided him with a treasure trove of knowledge about Henry's maritime achievements. During 1476 AD, Columbus found himself at the helm of an armed convoy dispatched by Genoa to transport valuable cargo to northern Europe. However, fate intervened when pirates attacked his vessel off the coast of Cape St. Vincent, situated at the southwestern tip of Portugal. Columbus made landfall near the town of Lagos, but he swiftly journeyed onward to Lisbon. In Lisbon, Christopher Columbus sought solace with his brother Bartholomew. Together, they established a chart-making company, earning their livelihood by selling these navigational treasures. However, Columbus's heart yearned for more, a quest beyond the horizon. He was hired as a business agent for the influential Centurion and De Negro families, and subsequently sent to Madeira to handle their affairs. It was there that he met his wife, Filipa Muniz Peristrello, whose father had been an Atlantic island colonizer before his passing. Upon their marriage in 1478, the commoner Columbus ascended into a noble family, gaining access to the Portuguese court. Soon, Columbus acquired from his mother-in-law charts and documents detailing Atlantic voyages, including a copy of a letter by Paolo dal Pozzo Toscanelli. This letter proposed a theory of travel to the east by sailing west from Europe, drawing upon knowledge from the travels of Marco Polo and others in the Orient. This theory validated Columbus's visionary notion, which had haunted him for years, to discover a new route that would circumvent the traditional overland Silk Road and the treacherous sea routes around Africa. During 15th century, the political relations between Europe and the Middle East were indeed complex and often strained. The spice trade from Asia was immensely profitable, but with the Ottoman conquest of the eastern Mediterranean countries, supply became problematic. Constantinople, a key point on the spice routes, imposed exorbitant tariffs on goods transported through the city. European countries, including Florence, faced an economic crisis due to Muslim control over this lucrative trade. A visionary and explorer as he was, Columbus became obsessed with the possibility of pioneering a western sea route to Cathay, China, to India, and the gold and spice islands of Asia. His dreams were painted in saffron and indigo, fueled by the whispers of mariners and the scent of distant lands. Columbus possessed many qualities: courage, knowledge, diplomacy, experience, and fearlessness. However, he lacked the necessary funds to finance his journey. In the 1480s, Christopher Columbus embarked on a quest to secure financial support for his ambitious plan. He initially presented his Enterprise of the Indies to newly ascended Portuguese King John II. His reign was marked by a ruthless assertion of royal authority over the nobles and a renewed focus on exploration and trade. Initially excited by the idea, nonetheless, the Portuguese scholars later rejected Columbus's plan as unsound. After the death of his wife Philippa in 1485 AD, Columbus no longer had significant ties to Portugal. He made the decision to leave Lisbon with his son Diego and relocate to Spain to seek financial support at the Spanish court. He devised a plan that involved embarking on a westward voyage from the Canary Islands, which were then under Castilian ownership. He meticulously presented this plan to the Spanish monarchs, Fernando II of Aragon and Isabella of Castile. Unfortunately, his plea went unheard once again. The proposal came in 1486 AD, when the Spanish kingdom found itself embroiled in an expensive 10-year war against the Muslim kingdom of Granada in southern Spain. This conflict aimed to sever the axis of Arab influence on Europe and ultimately pave the way for the Silk Road. In 1488, Christopher Columbus once again journeyed to Lisbon, hoping to secure the favor of the Portuguese king. However, his proposal proved unnecessary because the Portuguese sailor Bartolomé Dias had recently discovered a longer, yet safer route to India by circumnavigating the southern tip of Africa. After returning to Andalusia in Spain in 1491, Columbus persisted in his intention and approached the Spanish court for the second time. However, he was once again rejected. While the Spanish monarchs were indeed interested in Columbus' plans, they repeatedly turned him down, justifying themselves with the lack of finances due to the ongoing war in South. His unwavering determination and self-confidence drove him to continue seeking support for his ambitious voyages, this time in the Kingdom of France or England, whichever nation agreed first. Friar Juan Perez, whom Columbus had previously met in 1485 AD, persuaded the navigator not to leave Spain without consulting Queen Isabella. Perez, who served as Queen Isabella's personal confessor, suggested that he personally try to persuade the Queen to agree to finance Columbus' voyage to the west. Luis de Santanhel, the royal treasurer, joined this idea and wholeheartedly supported Columbus' vision of success from the very beginning. Santanhel believed in the potential of Columbus' voyage to the west and played an instrumental role in convincing the Catholic monarchs, King Ferdinand II and Queen Isabella I of Spain, to fund Columbus' expedition. In fact, Santanhel himself provided a substantial sum of money for this historic journey. Whether due to the euphoria of their recent victory in the war, fear of Spain's greatest rival Portugal, or the persuasive efforts of Columbus' two friends, Spanish monarchs finally agreed to finance Columbus' ambitious voyage of exploration. In April 1492, Queen Isabella I of Castile and King Ferdinand II of Aragon agreed to Christopher Columbus' demands. These demands included naming him Admiral of the Ocean Sea, authorizing him with the title to confiscate every newly discovered territory in the king's name, putting him in charge of newly opened lands, and allowing him to exploit any potential trade. And so, with sails unfurled and stars as his guides, on August 3, 1492, the intrepid explorer Christopher Columbus, an Admiral of the Ocean Sea, embarked on a daring journey from Spain, a voyage that would forever alter the course of history. The New World awaited, its shores concealed behind the veil of the unknown. A small fleet of 3 ships, Santa Maria, Pinta, and Nina, mercilessly sliced through the waves. After more than 2 months of sailing across the vast Atlantic Ocean, Columbus and his crew finally made landfall on October 12th. To their surprise, they found themselves on an island in an unknown archipelago, a place unlike any they had encountered before. On that fateful day in 1492, Columbus and his crew made landfall on an island San Salvador in the Bahamas. The native inhabitants called it Guanahani. Columbus continued his voyage, visiting the islands we now know as Cuba and Hispaniola. His expeditions allowed him to establish a colony in what is now Haiti. In early 1493, Columbus returned to Castile with captured natives and tales of his discoveries. Word of his voyage spread rapidly throughout Europe, sparking curiosity and excitement about the newfound lands. During his momentous voyage, Christopher Columbus encountered the native people of the Americas. His observations provide intriguing insights into their culture and way of life. Unlike the European settlers' experiences with the indigenous peoples in North America, Columbus found these individuals to be fearful, timid, and guileless. Interestingly, he noted that they were destitute of arms, which were entirely unknown to them. Following his initial encounter, Christopher Columbus embarked on 3 subsequent voyages to the Americas. In 1493, he explored the Lesser Antilles, followed by Trinidad and the northern coast of South America in 1498. His final voyage in 1502 took him along the east coast of Central America. To the people he encountered, Columbus bestowed the name Indios, believing that he had indeed reached India. Despite circumnavigating the islands of Central America, exploring coastal regions of Central and South America, Columbus never set foot on the continental Americas, let alone North America. Not even suspecting that he had found a new world, Columbus spent the rest of his life believing that the territory he had reached was Asia. As soon as the news of newly found land in the West spread throughout Europe, the race among the greatest European nations to colonize it began. The Spanish monarchs sent expedition after expedition, but were again disappointed by the lack of treasure sourcing in newly found land. They were followed by the Portuguese, the English, the French, and the Netherlands. Another researcher who followed in Columbus's footsteps was Amerigo Vespucci, who only after his second voyage realized that the West Indies are actually a new continent lying between Europe and Asia. Although the Americas were named after his name, even Vespucci never set foot on the soil of the North American continent. In 1497, just a few years after Columbus's first voyage, Giovanni Caboto, an Italian navigator and explorer under the commission of Henry VII, the King of England at the time, landed at the same place that Vikings did 500 years earlier. At Cape Bonavista, Newfoundland, marking the earliest known European exploration of coastal North America since the Norse visits to Vinland in the 11th century. Eriksson and Columbus, intentionally or not, whether they realize it or not, discovered a new continent. One of them was guided by the intention of mere survival, while the other was driven by greed and a desire for glory. Both reached only the North American islands, unaware that a vast continent lay beyond. However, they soon discovered that they were not the first to set foot there, as they encountered countless indigenous people living there, for who knows how long. These native inhabitants had established rich cultures, complex societies, and deep connections to the land. Their presence predates the European explorers by centuries, if not millennia. The impact of European colonization on indigenous peoples was profound and devastating. Forced displacement, violence, and exploitation disrupted their lives, while cultural suppression erased centuries-old practices and traditions. European powers exploited natural resources, leading to environmental degradation. Indigenous lands were seized for economic pursuits, and efforts to assimilate them resulted in cultural genocide. The trauma inflicted during colonization persists, leaving a legacy of pain and loss. The colonizers took everything, leaving behind scars that endure to this day. while North Americans, much like Europeans, celebrate and glorify Leif Eriksson and Christopher Columbus by erecting monuments to these two explorers across North America and Europe, and by commemorating national days in October that mark their landings and heritage. It is equally essential to recognize the painful history that led to these accomplishments and honor the resilience and contributions of Indigenous peoples as well.